Hello, and welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. My name is Michael McKeever, and I will be your host tonight. Now, before we get into the show, let me introduce you to our panel. Iris Acker, a wonderful actress, writer, and our very own producer. Mr. Bill Hirschman, a theater critic and founder of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. And Karen Stevens, a Carbonell Award-winning actress and writer. Now, I am thrilled to be hosting this episode tonight because our very special guest is, well, to put it quite simply, a living legend. She is an award-winning actress, a producer, a director, and one of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. It is with absolute joy that I welcome the one and only Jan McArt to our show today.
Oh, Michael.
Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, let's get right into it then. How does it feel to be a living legend?
Alive. Oh, that's very flattering. I really must say that I can't quite believe that title, but I've learned at this point in my life to take any good word I get from anybody and say thank you very much.
Well, my dear, it's certainly earned. You've been such an important, vital part of this community and the arts in general for the longest time, and it's really just a pleasure to have you here. Just for the few people who don't know your history, could you just give us a quick rundown of how you ended up in South Florida and what you're doing now?
I came like everybody else to visit my mother. That's how everybody got to Florida, isn't it?
Not quite, but yes.
No, I had no idea that I was going to be in business or do anything down here. And I did really honestly come to see my mother. And she was beginning to be a little handicapped. And of the three McArt kids, it was the easiest for me in New York to come down and check on her. So then on one day I thought, well, I'll start a little business and then I can write off my trips. And I thought, and my accountant will think I'm really smart. And, well, he didn't think I was very smart. He said, no, you don't understand. It's not the money you write off, it's what you save. And I didn't understand that. So anyway, I started a dinner theater, Equity Theater, and we ran, in 1977 I began, and it ran for almost 25 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And we ran full, 52 weeks a year. And most of you, except, well, Iris certainly was there early on, so was Karen. And Michael, it was my loss that you weren't there. But I used to come and see you at the Caldwell.
Well, thank you. And I have to tell you, one of my bucket list things was to actually work alongside with Jan McArt, and I'm so happy a few years back
Did we ever?
Yes, we did. I was honored and thrilled, and I was a little starstruck, I have to admit. And that was at Lynn University. Let's talk about Lynn University and what you're doing there now.
I've been at Lynn for about 11 years, and I am, my official title is Director of Theater Arts Production. I think that's what it is.
I know.
Iris, I have to get my business card and look.
It's close enough. Close enough.
Let's take a quick look at some of the work that Jan is producing at Lynn University right now.
I'm performing in.
And performing in as well, and directing.
Oh, yes.
Just so many wonderful things. We're going to cut right now to a clip of Kismet, which was a glorious production that the folks at Lynn, under Jan's direction, put up this past season, starring the always wonderful Mr. J. Stewart. Let's take a look. Great stuff. Wonderful. So, Jan, tell us about that production. Tell us about what you did.
First of all, it's the very first time in 11 years that I really got to do something from the very beginning of selling it to the sponsor, Elaine Johnson-Wold, and selling it to the theater itself. You see, it's very hard for me to get the theater, as you know, for any period of time because we have a world-class facility with the orchestra. So I wanted to do something with the orchestra.
How many pieces in that orchestra?
64.
64.
So can you imagine this gorgeous music?
It was glorious.
With a 64-piece orchestra.
Glorious.
And beautiful, beautiful voices. You know, right, Bill, you saw it.
And the orchestra was amazing.
I was so proud, and I had everybody learning. I called it a stage concert reading, but it was really like the full
It had
production.
costumes and it had
the
props
costumes and
the
everything
whole
was
nine
just
yards.
gorgeous. But then to have that beautiful music and these wonderful singers and actors, and then to have the
And who played the
64.
narrator in that show?
Oh, that.
Some amazing, some very
was
charismatic
nothing. You know,
woman.
I played everything but Hodge in that show. I've done the Marsina, I've done the La Lume, now I've done Omar Khayyam, who's a fella. I don't know, it's all very strange, but it was, I'm so proud of that production.
One
We're
of the
very
things that
proud
it
of
taught.
Lynn
I'm
I
sorry.
think Michael really, I'm so
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Bill, should talk about what's currently happening, namely because he's a part of it, is the staged readings. The staged readings are so innovative because they're workshops. Let's hear about that.
I am thrilled because we've done 2 of Michael's plays, Finding Mona Lisa and Daniel's Husband.
Yes.
And they're wonderful works, and they've each gone on to bigger, better things.
Yes, well, Mona Lisa received a stage reading in a wonderful theater in Phoenix, Arizona. And that theater's currently interested in doing a production of it. And the other one, the second one that I did through Jan McArt's new play reading series, was Daniel's Husband, which a few months later received a full production at Island City Stage in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm honored to say at this point has 5 different productions around the regions.
That's fabulous.
It's
That's
just
very
wonderful.
quick, isn't
Right.
it?
It is very quick.
To get things going.
But it just underlines how important it is to have a play reading series, a workshop situation that the folks at Lynn offer, because it really gives playwrights a chance to learn what's working and not working. So often in this region, we will do a stage reading where you come in that day, you run through the play very quickly, and then you read in front of an audience, and you don't really get a chance as a writer to work on the material. Lynn gives you and
We have a
Jan's
whole week of
a
rehearsal.
whole week, which is
Remarkable
amazing.
for-
Where you
yeah,
get
for
to
reading.
literally come in the 2 times that I've done it, and certainly Christy Miss Brown is in the same situation. We've talked about this.
And Tony Finster.
And Tony Finstrom, of course, where we go in and we rewrite, every night we're going home, rewriting pages, bringing them back in, seeing what's working. Great, that doesn't work. Going back home, rewriting the pages, bringing them back in. It's really quite wonderful.
How did that come about? How did you get into doing that?
I believe in this project so much because it is the future of the theater. You know, we can't go on. God love these wonderful revivals. I mean, I love them myself, but you cannot continue to do just revivals. And it's so wonderful to have a new play, and maybe it's going to be a wonderful thing that will go viral.
Exactly. It's
and
always
yours
exciting.
has. Now you're playing now, I think, in Germany and Belgium.
Yes, actually, and in fact, Daniel's Husband is being translated into German. I've got works that play throughout Europe, through Sweden, Switzerland, Poland, Russia, German, Austria, and so it's so wonderful having a venue and a program like yours to develop
It's a
these new
wonderful
works.
part of what's going on. There's so much more, though. Symphonies, concerts, Cabaret Series. Where did we begin?
Well, the Cabaret Series, I went to Lincoln Center 2 years ago, And I talked to K.T. Sullivan, who was running the Mabel Mercer Foundation. And I said, you know, it'd be wonderful to make these things here in New York at Rose Hall, and then come down, and then we'll do 5 of them. And so I was at a party, and somebody said, well, what are you doing just like now? And I said, well, I did just this, and I have this idea of bringing Live at Lincoln Center to my theater. And he said, well, I'll sponsor it. So
that was
just
that.
like that.
Wow.
And so now I have Lincoln Center coming for 5 productions every year. And I have Jeff Horner, Marilyn May, you know, the top cabaret artists. And I am a hound for cabaret. No matter where I am, after the evening is over, I'm ready to go to cabaret.
That's so New York.
Yeah. Well, there isn't much in New York now.
Not anymore.
No.
Used to be on Miami Beach.
Oh, I know. I know. I played the beach.
There you go. There you go.
You know, you also produced a show about your life at Lynn University. What was the name of it?
That was Tony
That was
Finstrom's
Tony Finstrom.
wonderful
Right.
play.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think it was
Glamour Girl.
Glamour Girl.
Yes,
Girl.
yes.
Yes.
And I think so many of us who've known you for so long didn't really know how broad your history was as far as your vocal talent. And,
Good point.
Yeah.
Thank you,
and I
Karen.
was just really, I was overcome because, you know, I mean, I know and love you. I've known you for so long. But can you talk a little bit? I mean, because so many people didn't know that you sang opera.
Oh, yes.
And toured throughout Europe and did all of these wonderful things, you know, as a vocalist.
I had a big career before I came to.
Let's talk about it. Let's hear.
Well, let's see. I did. Let's see. My very first show was Oklahoma, not the original, but Oscar Hammerstein and Richard Rogers chose me to do these. I was hired as the standby, and 6 weeks later, the Laurie, who was adorable, had a swollen knee or something, and I was off and running, and that was it. And so that was the beginning of my career. And then after that, I went to Japan. I lived in Japan and began an international career because I was then doing supper clubs and anything that would fly. Then I went to Europe and I began to study opera. And I was also doing pop music on the side. And then I came back to New York and made my debut with Virgil Thompson. And Virgil, of course, I'll never forget the opening night of the show that we were doing was so filled with celebrities, everybody from Rudolph Bing to every conductor, because Virgil had been the critic for the New York Times, and he had lambasted everybody. So they were all there to see him. And it was an opening night like I've never seen. And then there was a knock on the door afterwards, and it was NBC Opera, and they asked if I wanted to do Bohème. So that, you know, began that whole phase. Then I went to San Francisco and made my debut there, and et cetera, et cetera. Then I came back and I did, let's see, I did Anything Goes in New York, and Here's Love. I followed Janice Page. Then I did Around the World in 80 Days at Jones Beach, the most expensive production to come into New York at that time. It was produced by Mike Todd Jr. and Elizabeth Taylor. And that was fun.
You also did television, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. And I was so thrilled to do the television of, you know, Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show. That was, and Merv Griffin and all those things that everybody does.
There are YouTube clips of you singing on those shows.
Oh, really?
If anybody wants to look them up.
See the loneliness there inside you. Hey there, Georgie there. Why do all the boys just pass you by? Could it be you just don't try? Or is it the clothes you wear?
You sound lovely.
I don't even know how to work you two. But
Something I've always wanted to ask you, how was it during your career? You mentioned Mike Todd and Elizabeth Taylor. How was it in your career? Did it have any effect on you being compared physically, looks-wise, to Liz? The fact that you two resembled each other so much.
well, first of all, I was flattered in a way because she was so, attractive. But I was a live performer. I've always been a live performer. I was really never in the movies or even interested in the movies. So we were really in two different fields. And so that kind of separated the work that was done. And I still am really, I think that being a live performer is the Rolls Royce of the business. It's not the most lucrative, but it's,
that's
You can say that again.
but
Speak to the church here.
it is the most satisfying for me.
Well, you carry yourself on stage with such an ease, such a grace. I mean, the set can be burning down around you, and you just carry yourself with just such comfort. Have you always had that, or is that something that you just developed over the years, or?
I just think if you're around long enough, probably all of this stuff just happens, don't you?
What a nice way to put it. Yes, that's a very nice way to put it.
I remember I was doing Carousel once, in the very first scene. Julie is on the carousel, and it broke, and I fell back into the machinery, which had bad consequences about a year later. But at that moment, I picked myself up and I thought, I got the whole show to go here. and fortunately, the one who was playing Mrs. Mullen said, don't you ever come around here again. You come around breaking my carousel. I didn't mean to. But you just do it, You just do it. But one of the most fun things that I ever had was when you and I played in, and I can't remember what our relationship was, brother and sister.
Well, I had the great honor of playing Dawn in Glamour Girl.
Yes, but the one that we had Skippy the dog.
That was another Tony Finstrom play where you played.
That was backstage.
Exactly, backstage story.
Yeah, and we had fun there.
I was in that too.
That's right.
Yeah,
you
that's
were.
right. That was a fun show, wasn't it?
It was a blast.
That it
Talk
was.
about, I was on stage with all these legends. It was really wonderful.
And now you're the legend,
Oh,
Michael.
God, no. Oh, no.
Producing, directing, writing, starring, and every time I pick up the paper, you're appearing at another theater.
He forgets it's her show.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael, this next week. Chad, let's talk about the dinner theater again, because you made it work. I know what really helped to make it work, but I'd like to hear it from you. The food was good. That's very important.
Food was great.
I still, the chef. I don't want to talk for you.
The dinner theater, well, first of all, this area would not have possibly accepted anything but good table service, and that we had. I wanted to have a classy operation, and the food was, was just marvelous, served at the table. And so the food was good. The productions under the direction of Bob Bogdanoff, the late Bob Bogdanoff, was just lovely. I mean, we all loved him. And we ran an equity theater for all that time.
And actors loved you. And do you know what else she's famous for? People would come in. She never forgot a name. I would tell you, my husband would come in and say, "Oh, Phil, it's so good to see." And he said to me, Jan is the only one who ever did that. Until this day, you greet everybody that way.
Betty, I gotta tell you.
That's another show. That's wonderful.
You've seen, over the years that you've been here, obviously a huge change in South Florida theater. What, from your perspective, what do you see is the evolution since the day you came to what we have now?
There've been, well, of course, when I came, there was no Broward, there was no Kravis, there was the Parker and Sunrise, and that was that was pretty much it. The Theater Broward did not. The Duncan was not in operation, really. The EC was not. And now today, all these venues are operable. Operable. And it was wonderful to see that all happen. But along the way, whether the towns supported things like Caldwell, which was a wonderful operation under Michael Hall, the Boca Pops, these are things that were there that have gone away. Now that's sad because we have more money, more involvement from the community, and we hate to lose those things.
Sure.
But there have been new theaters like your theaters, Zoetic. There have been the Drama Works, who toiled endlessly in their little theater, and now they've got this gorgeous theater, Clematis. The theater that should be up and isn't is the Royal Poinciana in Palm Beach.
I hear a rumor it may be.
Well, that's been going on for before I ever started building my theater. I mean, it's a shame.
Yeah, well, it was up and running, I think, simultaneously, wasn't it there
Yeah.
for a while?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a lovely facility. And so that should be up. But so there have been new companies that have come out.
Right.
And of course, as the audiences have become Hispanic in your area, the Coconut Grove is gone, but other theaters have popped up.
Sure.
Joe Adler's there, still there.
Cable stage, sure, of
You
course,
know.
yes.
So I've seen these smaller venues come forward, but we've lost some too.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for giving me my first gig right out of school.
Was that really? Oh,
Yes.
isn't that
How
wonderful?
come you haven't changed the venue?
Flattery will get you out.
Yes, yeah. My first professional job, I worked at the Royal Palm Dinner Theater
That was
in
Cabaret,
Chicago,
right?
Chicago,
Yeah.
under the
Oh,
direction
yes.
of Bob
Yeah.
Bognoff. I made lifelong friends there. The one thing about theater back in the day was we had long runs, 6-week run, you know.
At least
at
6,
least.
8,
No,
10.
9 at your
Yeah.
theater with 1 week rehearsal.
Yes.
And I made friends that I'm still friends with today, lifelong friends, and it was just a wonderful time.
It was, and I remember so much you, and he ran into my knife 10 times.
Actors love to work for you, John.
Oh.
Yes.
And that's, and you know how important that is.
Iris, I loved it. I used to love it when I was in the dressing room with all the other girls, you know. Sure. I love that feeling. I love being a part of it. That was great fun. And I think the reason that if that's the case, that people did enjoy it, it's because I did it myself.
Yeah, it has a lot
and
to
I
do
knew
with it.
what it was. I know what it is to get out there and do it, to memorize something,
Sure.
to have to put your life on the line. It's you don't talk about it, you do it.
I'm with you.
And by the way, wasn't your first show, Royal Family, wonderful?
Royal Family, yes. When I did it back, I loved it. I loved working at the theater. I loved it each time. Yes, absolutely.
It just says so much about you that there are hundreds, thousands of these actors and technicians and directors and designers who've started, that you've given their start to, their first.
There really are a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I mean,
Testimonial,
not
too.
only the legacy of the recordings of your beautiful voice, but also the legacy of this entire group of people that you've given careers to.
It is funny because when I go, someplace, maybe in New York or LA or something, I'll run into people who used to, now they're middle-aged and all of it. But I worked for you.
But it's interesting that people who don't know you look at you and they think, oh, this is someone whose mind and is back in the good old days. And instead, you seem to be really focused on what you're doing today and where to go next. What do you see coming in the future?
For me?
For you. What do you want to do next?
For me, I'm very happy at Lynn because I've been able to take my talents and cut my job to fit, so to speak. They didn't have that before, and so I've been able to build a suit. And that's been fun. And I'd like to just continue to do that with a bigger budget and more theaters and more, in other words, doing just what I'm doing, but bigger and better. And I adored having the co-production with the orchestra, with
Kismet.
with the symphony.
Yeah.
Do you
So-
foresee more of those in the future?
I certainly count on it.
Excellent. Excellent.
I do.
Absolutely.
And
Well, I'm sorry,
no,
go ahead.
No, you go. No, I've been an actor in your play reading series, and I have to say that it's been a really great process.
Yes.
I think the play reading series, I think the concerts you do, I think the full productions, everything that you're doing at Lynn is just amazing, as it is having you here on this show. I cannot express how thrilled I am to have been honored enough to host this show. Thank you, Jay McArt, for being here.
Where's Skippy? That was what we were looking for our puppy. Michael, remember?
Yeah, I do. I do. Thank you to this wonderful panel. And again, special thanks to our very special guest tonight. And thanks to you for joining us every time that you come and visit us here at Spotlight on the Arts. If you'd like to know what's going on at South Florida Theater, please go to floridatheateronstage.com. Anything you need to know about South Florida Theater is on that website. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Until then, make sure you go to the theater.